Welcome to the Rewilded Human podcast, where Dr. Lucille and Lynn will tackle your most difficult and intimate questions with candor, tough love, and a little dash of humor. In today's episode,
I see this a lot in couples where one of the partners has ADD. The other partner just gets so frustrated that they start becoming abusive, even if they don't want to be. That's the unfortunate thing.
hello, our friends, and welcome back to the Rewilded Human podcast. And this is episode 19. I'm removing my glasses so you don't have to look at my glare. And we are so glad to have you guys back. And we're going to jump right into your questions without any further ado. Dr. Lucille, take it away.
Thanks, Lynn. John is in love with two women. Hey, I'm John, and I'm going through something really tough. You see, one of the women in my life is my wife. We've been together for years, and I made a promise to be with her. But there's another woman who's come into my life, and she's made me feel something new and exciting. I'm facing a deeply complex situation. How do you deal with this kind of love challenge? Can your heart really be in love with two people at once? Do you have to choose, even if it means changing everything you know? I could use some advice as I navigate this tricky path of the heart.
No, John, you don't have to choose. Just marry both. You know what? Take on a third wife, a fourth one. Why would you have to choose? You can have it all, my friend. You can have it all. First of all, you cannot be in love with two people at the same time. Because when you truly love someone, you will not love another person. Not in a, romantic love. I don't believe you can be in love with two people at the same time. Do you think?
Yeah, and I think that's a good point, Lynn. What kind of love, quote unquote, are we talking about? Is it romantic love, or is it hormones? Is it
for sure he loves his wife, or he says he loves his wife. Maybe he's comfortable with her, and she washes his underwear, so he appreciates that. And then he's got
we're not making fun of you, John. Really, we're
yes,
not.
We are.
There's so many people who. Hey, all right.
Sorry.
I'm going to be good cop, and Lynn is going to be bad cop on this.
I'm always the bad cop.
Yeah. What is love? I mean, that is the age-old question, right? And you make a really good point, Lynn. Can you be romantically in love with more than one person? I certainly think a lot of people have tried. The problem is, what is your definition of love, John? What would be love for you? What would fulfill you as love? Okay, because I mean, let's be realistic. Genuine, deep love means that you feel such a strong heart connection to the other person that you will face all the challenges that come up to make this the best relationship possible. I mean, if you really think about like the deep, enduring love, this other woman that has come into your life, you don't really know her on the deep level that you know your wife. And you have no idea if you did take up with her, whether it wouldn't turn out to be the same thing as with your marriage, that, oh yeah, I love her, but there's another woman who's come into my life who's now given me that sense of being special and exciting, and she's a novelty. You have to dig really deep in your heart and ask yourself, what is it that is love for me? What is that truly?
And the difference between love and infatuation,
infatuation, right?
When somebody just sweeps you off your feet and you think, oh my God, I'm so in love, until you, like you said, until you would get down to the nitty gritty and living daily life with that person. And when and they wake up with bad breath, and, you go through the normal things you deal with in a relationship, and you think, well, do I love her? So it's much easier to feel like you're in love with someone that you are not actually living with and have this long relationship with. I mean, obviously relationships do get stale after a while, and people start, looking at other relationships and thinking maybe this would be better. But I think the fact, like you're saying, that you love your wife, John, I think if you truly, truly, deeply loved your wife, this would not even be an issue. I mean, I've been with my husband going on 30, it's going to be 30 years this May. Believe it, it's crazy. And the thing is, I truly, deeply love him and have connected with him on a heart, soul level. He's my man, he's my soulmate. And I can honestly tell you, in the 30 years that we've been together, I have not once been tempted where I started looking at another guy. I wonder how it would be with him. I was never once physically or sexually attracted to another person. I was never tempted because my heart belongs to him 100%. And even when I'm mad at him and, some days I can kill him, could kill him, I wouldn't. But, that love is still there. And I think that's true love. So I think at the moment you start looking at other people and thinking of other relationships and opening up your heart to someone else, then I don't know, if I was your wife, I'd be like running in the other direction. And I think if a man would ever come to me and say, "Oh, honey, I don't know what to do. I'm in love with two people," I would tell him, "You know what? Choose the other one, because obviously this love isn't real." That's
Right.
just my 2 cents.
And I agree with you thoroughly. And what you're kind of implying too here, Lynn, is that if you're getting interested in another person, what is going wrong in your current relationship? What's going wrong? Have there been things that have built up, resentments, unresolved conflicts over the years that have just kind of built up as a bit of a barrier between the two of you, and you've never resolved them? Then that's something that really needs to be dealt with directly, where you go in there and you say, "Listen, why aren't we closer? What's going on?" And you have those deep, deep discussions, because without doing that, you are guaranteed to run into the same problem in your next relationship.
Absolutely.
Right? Absolutely. And I think one of the things that you have to also think about, we think about, love. Love is what Lynn talked about, which is you've got, Lynn, you've got issues in your marriage. There are things that you could kill your husband over, but you haven't yet. But
No.
But the point is, you always delve deep into your heart. What is your heart telling you? And your heart, if your heart tells you, "I still love this person deeply," that is genuine love. But if it's more ego, it's like, "Oh, I feel so much more expanded. I feel like so manly. I feel so much this, so much that with this person." It's when it's more ego, it's kind of like a drug. And you have to keep taking the drug in order to feel good about yourself, and you're depending on somebody else to make you feel good.
The dopamine hit.
The dopamine hit, and that never is sustained.
No. And some people go from relationship to relationship because they need that hit constantly. And once that dwindles away, then they're on to the next one. But John wants to know if he actually has to choose one or the other. Like,
well,
do I have to
we
choose?
can't tell you. I mean, it's up to you. I mean, we don't make the rules here. We'd like to,
Yeah,
but we don't make the rules. So it's really up to you. You have to really think about what we've brought up here, and do a deep dive on yourself and say, "Okay, do I want to choose? Do I want to keep secrets from my wife and have this dual relationship?" And remember, there will be consequences to whatever choice you make.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
Whatever you do. So think about that. Think about the destruction that would happen in either situation, and think about really what are realistically the rewards.
Yeah, absolutely. And
Look at the pros and cons.
if you do love your wife like you say you do, then I assume she's also like your best friend. And would you hurt your best friend that way?
Yeah, it causes tremendous destruction.
It's just horrible.
Yeah.
So, John, we don't believe you can be in love with two people at the same time. You may, but
you may be deluding yourself. I'm sorry to say that, John, but
no, you are.
But really look at yourself. Really look at what you're really wanting. in
Yeah.
these relationships.
Absolutely. And if your wife is important to you, then smarten up, and smarten up fast and stop being a crazy man. I mean, no, this is just wrong. I just don't like this question at all. Sorry, John, but we wish you well.
Yes, we do. We do, definitely.
Wish you well, and we hope you can sort this out. And we appreciate your question, and we appreciate your honesty. And probably your name is not John. I would not be surprised, right? But we do appreciate your question, and we would love to hear how this all works out for you and what decision you make. And if you decide to keep both of them, how that works out for you. Please keep us posted. We'd love to know.
Because this is a very common question, very common dilemma.
Yeah. So the next question is from Don. Our friend Don is back, Lucille. He's back with another interesting question. So Don is asking, in an age where AI is becoming increasingly involved in our lives, is it healthy or potentially risky for people to form and nurture online relationships without ever meeting in person? What are the potential implications of digital connections on human relationships and well-being? So I'm not sure if Don is asking about romantic relationships, or I'm assuming he's asking about romantic relationships and not friendships, because I mean, obviously there's not that kind of risk with a potential online friendship as there is with a potential online relationship, right?
Mhm.
I think his concern is that, it's like are you even seeing that real person? Because you're seeing like a digital projection of that person, the filtered photos or the whatever they want to project as their happy lives or their perfect lives. And, you potentially fall for someone, you see their profile photo or the stories they post and everything, and you fall for that person. But what are the implications? Is that even a real person, or is that just a digital interpretation of that person? Is that who we are, the people that we see online on social media, or is that just one part of our lives? And what would be the implications of that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If I'm understanding the question correctly.
Yeah. I think that I would get that interpretation from the question as well. But it poses a bigger question too. It's not just the online relationships, but the whole issue of more and more of the, I don't know what you call them, people that come into our lives could be digital. They could be.
Yes. Did you see that model, that digital model? They set up an online page for her, and she has like hundreds, probably millions of followers by now, and sponsors and everything, and people don't realize that she's not real.
Yes.
So and then when people are getting catfished and they're, and it's some 50-year-old guy sitting behind the thing, posting photos of 20-year-old women, like you see a lot of this catfishing going around. So I would think, Dawn, first of all, I know you're looking for a real relationship and a healthy relationship, and probably online is not the best place to find it. I think, you need to have real human connections, and he's told me that he's, met up with women before, and it's like they are completely different than their profile photo from 10 years ago, or 15 years ago, or 20 pounds ago, and stuff like that. So you don't really know what you're getting until you actually meet in person. And I'm always amazed how many people we watch with my husband, 90 Day Fiancé. Have you ever watched that, Lucille?
No, never.
Fiancé, we are like addicted to this show on TLC, and people go abroad and they bring their wives and they get married and they bring them to America, or they go the other way, they move to their countries. It's a really interesting show about relationships. And I think this is the reason my husband and I are still together, because we see what's out there on these shows.
Right. And you're so grateful that you have
and we're like, oh my God, thank God we have this normal relationship. But you see these people all the time, and what they're projecting online is very different to when they actually meet, and their photos look completely different, and how it's really easy to meet someone and to be on your best behavior, and people fall in love with the idea of this person, with this image. And some of them haven't never spoken or never video called or video, what do you call it? Video conference or whatever their thing is called. But they're just chatting and they're looking at this photo and they're completely in love with this photo, but they don't know the person. How can you be in love with someone when you never met them, you never touched them, you never felt that energy that we talk about all the time? How can you actually fall in love? And people do, but you're falling in love with an image, with
it's a story in your own head, basically.
Yes, exactly.
From this profile.
Because until you smell the other person, like for me, smell is super important when when it comes to attraction and stuff like that. So until you actually have that physical contact, how can you fall in love?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So Dawn, you need to get out there, and I think you need to put yourself out there and meet real people in like real situations. I think the online thing is toxic. I think it's fake. I don't think it's real. I think people are always trying to put their best lives forward. Like, look at me, I'm always on vacation, buying Gucci bags. I'm always happy, happy, happy. And it's not the reality at all.
Right. It's all about ego, and it's not about real heart and real authenticity. Real authenticity, that's a little redundant. It's not about being authentically you. It's not about connecting with another heart-centered human being. It's all about ego. So, Dawn, I don't think that's really going to sustain you. And the other thing too is, and this is interesting advice that I got from, again, a professional matchmaker, which is they suggest that you don't spend a lot of time texting or online communication at the beginning. Just keep it brief, keep it short, and meet. Meet. If you feel there's any amount of interest, meet, because that's going to tell you everything you need to know.
I like that.
Yeah, and it's far, far, far better than spending, and some people spend months and months online in these communications that, really they're unreal. They're unreal. Why do you want to be living a life that's not real?
And you invest so much of your time and your energy and everything into a relationship, which ultimately, when you meet the person, they could be totally wrong for you, but you don't know that until you meet in person.
Yes,
so it's a waste of, I really like that idea. And I've seen that because, we watch these shows, and I've seen that with matchmakers. They do say that to meet as soon as possible. Lucille, what has been your experience with these professional matchmakers? Like, I'd love to hear a little bit more about that, because I think there's a lot of people that are looking for partners. And we talked about this in a previous episode. I think it was episode 16, right? Where, you recommended a professional matchmaker over these dating apps, which is mostly just hookup apps now, right? And so what has been your personal experience with these matchmakers?
Well, I haven't had a vast amount of experience because I have, it's only this one dating service that I've been involved with recently. Last one was like decades ago, but this one is, their advice, I think, is very solid, very professional. I think they really do have a sense of conscientiousness about really matching people well. The whole issue, though, is who's in your client base, right?
Yeah.
That is the professional matchmakers can be excellent at what they do, but they only have a certain pool to draw from. And that's an issue. And I mean, and I know, Dawn, you and I are not at the same age, so this doesn't apply to you necessarily, but the older you get, the fewer and fewer matches are available to you, right? So, and we talked about that in a previous episode as well, when the person asked about dating at the age of 60.
Yes.
And so you have to be on your toes. If you're going to hire a professional matchmaker, you can't just hand everything over to them and say, oh, I want my perfect soulmate within the next few weeks, right? No, you have to be very, very patient, and you have to realize you may have the best matchmaker in the entire universe, but who's in their customer base. That's something you don't have control over, and you have to be really patient.
Yeah.
But I agree with Lynn. It is far, far, far better than going on a dating app, any dating app. And I don't care how highly rated these are, some of these dating apps. It's far better if you're dealing with a human interface between you and your potential date.
Yeah, I agree. I agree, Lucille. I think that's a good option. Don, let us know if you've ever tried that, because we'd be very curious. And we are rooting for you. Really want you to find the love of your life, and we know how important that is to you. But I think, take everything you see online with a grain of salt. I mean, it's not real. Some of it is real, but how do you make sense of it all? I think you need to make real human connections, and we're rooting for you, and we wish the best for you. And keep those questions coming, because we love your questions and we love hearing from you.
Yes, you're our favorite fan.
Yes, absolutely, Dawn. Absolutely.
All right, so we're going on to Angela. Angela is in a common struggle with her body. I'm in my late 40s, and for over 20 years, I've been very overweight. I've tried everything to lose the weight. I've lost count of all the diets I've been on. I may lose some weight with each diet, but then I stop because they're too hard to sustain, and all the weight comes back on. The last diet professional I saw told me my issue was emotional and I should see a psychotherapist. This is so frustrating and demoralizing. What should I do? Well, Lynn, you're more the expert in this field than I am.
I hear this so much from women, and many years of yo-yo dieting will destroy your metabolism completely, which makes it really, really difficult. The first thing that I want to say, Angela, is first of all, you need to get this idea of dieting out of your head. The solution is not to go from one diet to another diet, because with every diet, basically you lose a little bit of weight, and then you stop, and then you go back to your normal way of eating, and you gain back the weight, and then double the weight, and then some. So as you see, whatever you've been doing for the past 20 years obviously has not worked for you. So you need to do something completely different. And I think we need to stop the diet mindset. Instead, we need to find a way of eating, a lifestyle that we can sustain for the rest of our lives, something that is healthy, something that is nourishing your body. We need to learn to eat not for pleasure and for the dopamine, for making us feel good. We need to eat to nourish our bodies. At the same time, that can be, of course, very tasty foods that can be tasty and healthy for you as well. But you need to find a way of eating that you can sustain for the rest of your life. And I think once your body heals, then the weight starts dropping off. So, to see a psychotherapist, I think they're just kind of trying to pass the ball so that they don't have to deal with you. I would suggest that you stay away from dietitians and most nutritionists, because they are sponsored by, Coca-Cola, Nestle, and whole pharmaceutical industry and everything. So you're not going to get the right kind of dietary advice, which is really important. I'm a nutritional consultant. Everything I learned is complete BS. So I had to retrain myself, and I learned the hard way as well, because I'm like you. I went through every single diet, and I've lost weight, gained weight, lost weight, gained weight. And I'm so happy that, for the past 6 years now, that I have been able to lose the weight, keep the weight off, eat healthy foods, nourish my body. And this is, during coming up on menopause, when every woman is putting on weight, that I was able to do the opposite, lose weight. And I also have Hashimoto's, thyroid issues. So despite all that, I was able to lose weight and keep it off, which is, that's a true challenge. And all I can tell you is what worked for me. And I do a lot of fasting. Fasting is a big part of my life. I don't think we need to be eating all the time. I think we were always fasting and then feasting. So we were hunters-gatherers, and when we would catch a large animal, then the whole tribe would be feasting until the food was gone. And then there could be 2-3 days when we weren't able to eat. And then we'd be hunting again, and we'd be fasting. So I think this is a normal state for our bodies, and we will definitely talk more about this in the next episode about fasting. So I'm not going to talk too much about that, but that worked for me. And then going on a mostly meat-based diet, keto, carnivore type of diet. And I really believe that once you get rid of most of the carbohydrates in your diet, sugar, flour, potatoes, rice, all of those things, the body starts getting rid of all the inflammation and it can finally start to heal. And with that, if you're having any anxiety, depressive issues, things like that, your mind also starts to heal. They are now saying that, for example, Alzheimer's, dementia is type 3 diabetes and is also caused by sugar and excessive intake of carbohydrates. So our mind and bodies and our gut are so intertwined and interconnected. And once you fix your gut and your gut bacteria, then it just kind of fixes everything else. So I'm not going to talk too much about this because I could go on forever and then it's going to be a very long episode. But basically, Angela, what I would suggest is finding the diet for you that you love and that you can sustain for the rest of your life. And Lucille, do you think she needs to see a therapist? Do you think that that could be helpful?
It could, depending on the orientation of the therapist and if they're experienced working with people like this, because it does take you need a lot of support when you're at this stage.
Yes, absolutely.
I think that what you've said is just really so key, Lynn. And I just wanted to insert one little thing here, which is I have a client who is in a very similar situation. And what has happened is she essentially, after a lot of her own resistance, she decided that she had to explore, and I was very encouraging of this, had to explore what are some of the underlying imbalances that are in her body that may be causing this issue for her. And I highly recommend, if you haven't already worked with, say, a naturopath or a functional medicine specialist, to at least have a consultation and find out if there is anything going on, like an underlying diabetic condition or like thyroid issues, etc. Excuse me. And in my client's case, the interesting thing is she finally went to a sleep study that she'd been resisting for such a long time. And we knew there was an issue there because her husband could not sleep in the same bedroom with her because of her extremely loud snoring. So lo and behold, the sleep study comes back to show that she has such an extreme level of sleep apnea that the practitioner dealing with her said, you cannot go on another diet. You will totally fail because you are your body is so oxygen deprived. It's in a chronic stressed state, and it will only resist every attempt. Your metabolism will get lower and lower and lower because it will feel like it's under threat of dying because you're already so hypoxic or low in oxygen.
Yes.
Which came as a complete shock to her. And I am in no way saying that that's your issue.
But there could definitely be underlying issues. Absolutely.
It's an example. And I'm sure that's not the only one for my client. In fact, I know that's not the only underlying issue. But you have to look at, like, and Lynn, I know, is very much into this. Look at the root causes, see what the root causes may be.
Absolutely.
And you have to correct those.
But it could also be, because I know people that have emotional issues, and gaining weight is kind of like a protection.
Yes. So this is another thing that needs to be looked at is if there's been a history of abuse, trauma, whether it's sexual, physical, emotional abuse, or any unresolved losses, deaths, complicated grief issues. So that is also something that would be a good idea to explore with a psychotherapist, because the emotional issues are so key to every physical condition we have. I don't think we realize how much our psyches, our consciousness impacts our physical health. So yes, that would be a very important thing. Thank you for that.
Why do you think Angela got so offended by that? She said that's very frustrating and demoralizing that she was told
because the whole thing is about people. And again, this for me, sometimes indicates there is a background of abuse, because that indicates a lot of shame.
Mhm.
You know, and you start personalizing. My obesity is a mark of my character. You start identifying it with it as a feature of you that is wrong and bad, and you are defective. And if you get really, if you get identified with your body in that way, you will start having so much shame and resistance
Yeah.
to anything that smacks of, oh, it's all in your head.
Mhm.
You're there's something wrong with how you're thinking about this. It's far, far easier to say, well, I just haven't found the right diet, you
Mhm.
know, and I don't
Yeah.
have to look at the dark shadows in my past.
Yeah.
I don't have to feel more shame about what might come up in a psychotherapist's office.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Lucille, you talk a lot about your Healy device, this energy device that you use. Can that be used for weight loss as well, to help people
Oh,
lose weight?
absolutely, because the frequencies will and I don't want to promote it as a weight loss
Mhm.
product. Really, I'm not going there. But you have to realize that everything is frequency actually in our body. And if there's an imbalance in your body, and most of us have many, what the frequency devices do, like the Healy, is they can detect, well, at least the Healy can detect what the frequencies are that are out of balance,
Mhm.
and it can bring to your bioenergetic field those frequencies
Mhm.
that will help to balance out the issue,
Mhm.
whether it's thyroiditis, whether it is low metabolism for other reasons, whether it's a nutritional deficiency.
Mhm.
It's going to bring in those frequencies that your bioenergetic field needs, that it is struggling without right now.
Mhm.
Yes. So we have to be always cognizant. That's why I think frequencies are going to be something that people really need to look at much more in the future when it comes to
Absolutely.
yeah.
No, I agree, because once you're in balance, your body's in balance, then these things just kind of happen naturally, like that you
Absolutely.
reach your ideal weight, that you're sleeping well, your mind is working well, but you need to find that balance. And sometimes these frequency devices can be very helpful. Angela, if you want to learn more about the Healy, there is a link below in the description. So do check that out. And yeah, we wish you all the best, girl. You need to really,
Yes.
you really need to find, what if there is a root problem, if there is an emotional problem root to your problem, and ultimately you need to find a way of eating that you enjoy and that you can do for the rest of your life. I think that is super important. I'm so happy that I found that, and I know that I will eat like this for the rest of my life. And I know that it has worked for thousands and thousands of people that I've been in contact with. I've organized retreats and things like that. So, feel free to reach out to us again if you need more clarification, if you need more information. Also, let me recommend my book to you, The Aging Games, How to Come Out a Winner. Hope you guys can see this. So I cover not just diet, exercise, but like a lot of lifestyle changes, because we always talk about this, that, we need a holistic approach. It's not one thing. It's not just eat this or take this pill or do this. You need a holistic approach. And I have over 100 different tips and hacks for a healthier lifestyle. So you might want to check this out as well, because I think this could really help you reach your goal and just to have a happier, healthier life overall. So guys, this brings us to the last question of this episode. And this is coming from Bob. Bob is feeling emotionally abused by his wife. Poor Bob. I'm ashamed to admit this, being a man, but I'm terrified of my wife's anger. Wait, did my husband write this? Just kidding. I've got ADD and I'm trying to get help for it, but it's hard for me to organize myself and focus on the household tasks she wants me to do. I get easily distracted with other things, including my work, and so I forget the to-do list. When she sees I didn't follow through, she flies into a rage, cursing and yelling at me. I get that my behavior frustrates the hell out of her, but I'm not doing this on purpose. She says I'm just using the ADD diagnosis as an excuse. I can't even defend myself or answer back because I'm like a deer caught in headlights. Things are getting worse between us. I need help. Oh, Bob. Ah, your wife is abusive. I mean, that's horrible.
I agree. And I see this a lot in couples where one of the partners has ADD.
Mm-hmm.
The other partner just gets so frustrated that they start becoming abusive, even if they don't want to be. That's the unfortunate thing, right?
So something with the ADD triggers this kind of reaction from people.
Yeah, because the wife just does not understand, why is it that you're not like doing simple things like, we needed to start dinner an hour ago. I was at work. I told you to start dinner. You said you'd do it. And I come home and there's nothing ready. And this is like repeated a million times every day throughout the day,
Yeah.
I have empathy for both Bob and his wife in this situation, to be perfectly honest,
Mm-hmm.
right? And ADD is actually far more common than we think it is.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of times when you see somebody who looks like they're constantly just, like doing their own thing and they couldn't be bothered, going along with what the protocol is or what the rules are or what the to-do lists, it's easy to get into a very judgmental frame of mind and say, well, he's doing this because he disrespects me. He's doing this because he couldn't care less, because he's using me. I'm supposed to do everything around here and he's not taking up any part of responsibility for maintaining the household. And it's easy to get judgmental and then take it personally. And they don't understand why. I mean, you're an adult, Bob. You should be doing this. We can do. I can do this. I don't like taking up the garbage or cooking, but I have to do it. So do you. You're not. So they get into this mindset, and it is very, very, very difficult.
And Lucille, ADD manifests quite differently in men and in women, right?
It can.
Yeah.
Like, actually, there are 7 different types of ADD, which people may not be aware of. 7 different types. And for anybody with ADD or living with somebody with ADD, I would highly recommend going to the amenclinics.com website. Because I think Dr. Amen has done a fantastic job of really studying what happens in the brain through his SPECT scans, how you can actually see in an ADD individual how the brain is malfunctioning. And so one of the first things that I tell people that in this situation is, do your research. Do your research, understand what this condition is. And the last thing, once you understand what this condition is, the last thing you're going to do is abuse the person who's got the ADD. It makes everything worse. It really does. It makes everything worse. Their behavior falls apart even more.
Yeah.
So,
and there's really no excuse to be cursing and yelling at someone.
No. I mean, I can understand the frustration, because it is a very frustrating set of behaviors to have to live with in a partner. Very frustrating. I would just say it requires, if you love each other, it requires a tremendous degree of patience and learning and working things out together cooperatively. And you can get a lot of really, really good information in resources like the Amen Clinics material. It's really very, very good. But this is a situation that, you can't just keep doing the same thing over and over again, screaming louder and louder at your partner and hoping for a different result. It just will not happen. It will make things worse. So another thing too is that, if your wife is, willing to go for couple counseling with somebody, with a counselor who is aware of what it's like to live with somebody with ADD. And that can be very, very helpful.
Yeah. I feel really bad for Bob. I mean, I can sense his fear. And And that's just a horrible way to live when you're in
Sure.
constant fear of someone in your own house.
Sure.
That's just, I really agree with you, Lucille, about the fact that, you know, the more he can learn about ADD, or sorry, she could learn about ADD, the wife, to understand what, you know, how to deal with Bob and how to relate to him. My husband has Asperger's, and once, you know, I realized this like 4 or 5 years ago, and I've learned everything that I could about the condition. I've read every book and listened to every podcast and everything. And the more I understood it, the more patient I became, because the more I understood where he was coming from, and that he wasn't coming, you know, like he wasn't trying to be evil or trying to be malicious or mean or anything like that. And once you understand that, then you become a lot more compassionate. So I think if Bob, you could lead your wife to somehow. That's why, yeah, I think the couples counseling is a really good idea, because then they can both kind of open up, and hopefully the counselor would help them see things from a different perspective and help the wife to understand what he's going through and what he's experiencing as well. And but she has to stop the abuse, because things are just much worse. If you guys don't address this, this is going to get really out of control, and you don't want to get to the point where she's like physically abusing you, because you know, usually it starts with the verbal abuse and the cussing, and then it kind of evolves from there, and you don't want to be in that situation. That's absolutely horrible.
Yeah. So, Bob, we really feel for you, and we also really hope that your wife can come to a place of empathy and compassion and understanding. And, you know, as always, we would welcome you giving us an update, or if you have further questions, please submit them. And we're rooting for you. We're rooting for your marriage, too.
We are, Bob, absolutely. It's really interesting. We had in an earlier episode, you know, similar with the guy having the to-do list from the wife and everything with the household chores, and it's really interesting how the women, you know, they are like in control at home, and you got to do this and this and this and this, and it's just it really changes the dynamic in the relationship. And you know, we were saying that she kind of takes on the mother role, and she's scolding you, and you didn't do the chores that you're assigned to do, and so it's very difficult to overcome this in a marriage. And I think it's very difficult for a man to, you know, in his own house, to be told what to do and then to be called out for it, for not doing it right. And yeah, we feel for you, Bob, and we do hope that you guys can resolve this, because it sounds like you love your wife, and we hope that you guys can come to an agreement and find harmony, love, and peace.
Absolutely. So, everyone, thank you so much for being on this podcast with us. We have enjoyed it thoroughly, as we do every podcast. Please remember to like, comment, subscribe, and if you can, please share this out with anybody that you think might be interested in it. We would so appreciate that. Our whole purpose is to help people really get back to the natural state of humanity that we're all meant to be in. So we are here for you, and we so appreciate your presence here. We have a real treat in store for you. The next episode is going to be my interview with Dr. Lynn Hardy regarding her expertise on fasting. And I'm so glad she brought that up as a teaser in this episode, because we are going to talk about everything that you would need to know about fasting, which has become such a trend now, so many people into it. And so I'm really thoroughly looking forward to it, and very excited about it.
Me too, guys. Thank you so much for being here. And we'll see you in the next episode, the fasting episode, which will be episode 20. All the best, guys. Take care.
Have fun, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Please be aware that Lynn and I are here to provide insights, advice, stories that are for educational and entertainment purposes only. None of our content should be considered to be personal, medical, or mental health therapy. If you are experiencing a mental health or physical health challenge, please consult the appropriate healthcare specialist. We are here to provide the best possible content in an atmosphere of positive conversation and personal growth.